We will now begin our afternoon program on the theme, Practicalities and Future-Proofing, starting with our fourth panel on how tax administrations are using AI to enhance dispute resolution, compliance, risk management, and information exchange. Moderating this session is Mr. Dennis Lui, Chief Executive Officer of the Tax Academy of Singapore. And joining him are Mr. Robin Ng, Assistant Commissioner of the Data and Digital Ecosystem Division at the Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore, Ms. Konrug Silanookit, Head of the International Compliance Audit Development Division at the Revenue Department of Thailand, Mr. Patrick O'Doherty, Chief Digital Officer of the Inland Revenue New Zealand, and Ms. Jenny Wong, Tax Policy and Advocacy Lead at CPA Australia. The panel will share practical experiences and perspectives on the evolving role of AI in tax administration across the Asia-Pacific region. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dennis Lui and Panel 4.
Thank you. All right. It's never easy to be the first segment straight away after lunch, so I will forgive you if you get food coma, because I ate way too much as well. So thank you once again for joining us on our 20th anniversary conference. It's really a real privilege. So staying away from the this morning's heavy discussion, very exciting, we now move a little bit to technology and AI for a bit. So I invite Robin to take the stage to prepare himself. Now, the first speaker will be from my own organization, Mr. Robin. Mr. Robin Ng, he is the Assistant Commissioner of the Data and Digital Ecosystems Division in IRAS, and also our Chief Data Officer. Right, he leads the use of AI, machine learning, and analytics to transform our processes. So rather than steal any thunder from him, Robin, please go ahead. You have 12 minutes.
Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, I feel a lot of us are also suffering from food coma ourselves, but okay. Well, very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. In my presentation today, I'll be talking about how AI could fundamentally transform tax administrations in the not-too-distant future. So if you look slightly ahead into the agentic AI era, the future tax administration will be quite different from what we know today. In future, tax administrations will become increasingly real-time, predictive, and almost invisible from the taxpayer's perspective. Why? Because most of the tax filings could actually be pre-completed automatically using trusted data ecosystems. They deal with AI agents who will front many of the first-line taxpayer interactions instantly and almost around the clock. Services can become hyper-personalized, with taxpayers receiving tailored guidance based on their unique profile and circumstances. On the tax compliance front, instead of periodic reviews, we will have continuous compliance management supported by AI-driven anomaly detection as well as precise auditing. And of course, internally, tax administrations can also leverage AI for policy simulation, knowledge work, as well as autonomous operations. This is just a future that I'm painting, right? Not everything will happen overnight, but the future direction is very clear. AI will fundamentally reshape the future operating model of tax administrations. So let's take a look at taxpayer services. Today, taxpayers have to navigate websites, forms, FAQs, hotlines, multiple touchpoints to obtain assistance. But in future, AI agents can actually become intelligent digital tax assistants that interact with taxpayers conversationally, understand context, retrieve information, and actually guide taxpayers through transactions end-to-end, all in real time. They can operate 24/7 across channels, providing fast, responsive, as well as very, very consistent responses at scale. Similarly, when we look at tax compliance, today, many of the compliance activities remain retrospective and sample-based. Audits are very resource-intensive, and most of the time, tax administrations will have to prioritize their audits based on data, based on risk, based on limited visibility. But in future, AI has the power to allow more precise and continuous compliance management. By leveraging and integrating large-scale transactional data such as e-invoicing data, network analytics, as well as advanced machine learning, tax non-compliance can actually be detected much earlier and with far greater accuracy. Instead of detecting issues after filing, right? AI can actually proactively detect anomalies and evaluate and assess tax treatments on the fly. And together with machine learning as well as graph AI, they can uncover hidden fraud networks, predict high-risk behaviors, and identify fraud much earlier. So all in all, with AI, future tax compliance really can be made smarter and more precise, as the title states. The future that I've just described will arrive sooner than you think. And the future that I've just described is also something that IRAS is actively working towards too. So at IRAS, technology and AI have always been important strategic enablers for our transformation journey. And over the years, we have actually invested significantly across several foundational areas. We have actually pushed out and developed a suite of AI tools and solutions, coupled with our unified data platform and our state-of-the-art in-house tax system, to uplift our own productivity as well as to uplift our taxpayer service delivery, as well as compliance management capabilities. And these are supported by robust AI strategies, data strategies, as well as AI ethics and governance frameworks to drive how we exploit and govern data and AI at scale across the whole organization. We have also invested significantly in our people, upskilling them in data, digital, as well as AI skills. We've established communities of practice to allow people to come together to learn from one another, as well as to work on data and AI projects and initiatives together. Of course, we have also democratized the access to AI productivity tools such as Copilot to make sure that they have the tools at their hand, at their disposal, to be able to improve their personal productivity in their everyday work. With AI evolving so rapidly, we have also updated our AI strategy to version 2, which prepares IRAS for the next phase of transformation through agentic AI. At the heart of this vision is what we call IRAS, a future where technology and AI are deeply integrated into our processes and systems. There are 3 important shifts here in our strategy. First, deep integration into business processes and systems. I cannot emphasize enough that this deep integration, while easier said than done, is absolutely key, because in the agentic AI era, it is this deep integration that will really tap and harness the agentic AI's power, allow us to go beyond mere workflow automation and really bring about work transformation at scale. The second shift here is cultivating an AI-fluent workforce. Fundamentally, transformation is about people. To ensure that we are able to succeed in our AI transformation and get it well sustained, we need to make sure that every officer in IRAS be equipped with the right AI skills and that they are confident and they're comfortable with applying AI in their work. So, going forward, every staff in IRAS, we expect them to be an AI citizen who's comfortable at using AI tools to help them improve their personal productivity. A smaller group will be AI citizen, what we call AI citizen developers, who has the skills to create simple AI solutions and applications using low-code, no-code kind of platforms and tools. And of course, we have an elite group of the pro-code AI developers who can create enterprise-grade kind of AI products to propel IRAS forward. So collectively, this AI flow workforce will work together as one team and propel IRAS into the next phase of our agentic AI ambitions. And of course, the last part is really to be able to use and apply AI meaningfully. And what I really mean is about thinking, rethinking, and reimagining how AI can actually help us re-engineer our processes, our compliance models, and our service delivery. So to build on this approach, we are relying on what we call the 4 E's. Firstly, educate. This is really to build AI literacy as well as to upskill all our officers across all levels. Empower, basically allowing access to safe, trusted, and governed AI tools and capabilities across the whole organization. Experiment, encouraging both ground-up innovations as well as strategic level kind of initiatives. And enterprification, basically allowing successful AI solutions to scale across the whole organization. Now, let me share a couple of examples of how we have applied AI in IRAS. This is what we call, this is an example of how we actually use generative AI to improve taxpayer service delivery. And we have this thing called the Smart Writing Engine for Emails, or SWE for short. Right? So what it does is actually help officers generate taxpayer email responses more consistently and more efficiently. So traditionally, what tax officers would typically have to do is they have to spend significant time searching through past references, past correspondences, and internal knowledge sources before they are able to prepare the response. But what SUI does is that it actually leverages generative AI as well as IRAS's internal knowledge bases to retrieve the relevant information and generate context-aware draft responses. So the result is faster response, more consistent responses, as well as reduced manual effort and achieving a time savings of about 20 to 30%. Now, what you're seeing here today with SUI is just the beginning of a much bigger transformation journey that we are planning. Our longer-term vision for SUI is to evolve it into a far more autonomous agentic AI capability that is able to handle large volumes of first-line taxpayer interactions at scale. In the future, what we envision SUI to be will be our frontline. SUI will be our frontline agentic AI agent, right? And it is able to understand taxpayer context, retrieve the relevant information. It is able to personalize responses, orchestrate workflows, as well as complete actions across digital systems, and thus truly resolving taxpayer queries end-to-end with minimal human intervention. This will significantly improve response speed, consistency, as well as service scalability, while allowing our human officers to focus on the higher value and the more complex cases. And more importantly, such agentic AI capabilities will really help to augment our workforce and transform frontline taxpayer services in terms of how it's being delivered. Another example, more on the compliance front, what we have done is this Intelligent Network Analysis Tool, or INET for short, which uses graph analytics to help identify relationships and hidden connections across entities. So this platform allows our investigators and auditors to visualize networks of entities using identifiers such as identification numbers, contact numbers, IP addresses, email addresses, or even transaction relationships. So with this, it helps uncover suspicious patterns and detect complex fraud arrangements more effectively, more quickly, using a combination of graph analytics, network analytics, as well as advanced rescoring techniques. We have over about 130 auditors as well as investigators who have used this tool so far, and we have seen measurable improvements in terms of the entity link detection. So moving on, I'm going to talk a little bit about trust and AI governance. As AI adoption increases, trust will actually become one of the most important success factors. Why? Because if taxpayers, officers, and stakeholders do not trust AI and do not trust the system, adoption will slow, resistance will increase, and it will be much, much harder to scale AI across the organization. And this is very relevant for tax administrations because our decisions, the actions we take, directly affect taxpayers, businesses, as well as public confidence. Weak trust in AI will lead to concerns about fairness, explainability, bias, hallucinations, as well as legal concerns. On the other hand, if we have a strong, trusted AI system, it will encourage broader adoption, stronger confidence in decisions, as well as sustained transformation. So, trusted AI is no longer just a governance requirement. In fact, it is going to be a strategic enabler that will enable tax administrations to scale AI responsibly, safely, and credibly. And this is why strong AI governance will become mission critical in the agentic AI era. As AI systems become more autonomous and deeply embedded into operations, tax administrations will have to ensure that governance capabilities evolve in parallel. And I have listed 6 areas here, and these are all very important areas when it comes to AI governance, and these are all areas that IRAS is actively currently working on as well. So first, we have AI risk and policy governance, which is about establishing enterprise-wide standards, accountability, as well as acceptable users. We have responsible and ethical AI to ensure that there's fairness, transparency, explainability, as well as protection of taxpayer rights. We have human oversight, which makes sure that there's still human accountability, especially for high risk as well as sensitive decisions and scenarios. You need to make sure that there's continuous model monitoring as well as assurance to ensure that models, when they drift, when there are biases, when there are hallucinations, and when there are unintended outcomes, they can be attended to immediately. Of course, data governance and security is key because we are protecting very, very sensitive taxpayer information. And last but not least, AI talent and change management, because AI governance is not only technical, it is organizational and cultural as well. So without strong AI governance, we will not be able to scale AI safely and credibly across the whole organization. And as I conclude, I would like to leave everyone in the room with one simple word: brave. Build trust in AI, reinvent processes, services, and compliance models as you go about your AI transformation, accelerate adoption at all levels, create a common vision for a trusted AI-enabled tax ecosystem, and last but not least, embrace AI as a transformative partner. Why did I choose this word? Because the AI future is arriving faster than we expected. So now it's a time for us to brave the onslaught, to get future ready, and more importantly, because the future of tax administration does not lie in those who fear AI, but in those who are brave enough to lead its transformation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. So as an IRAS officer myself, you can see that we have a lot of work to do. And it reminds me of this morning's EVP video featuring our Joanne. It's about tax and beyond, right? IRAS tax. It's not just about technical tax, it's so much more. As I invite Ms. Konrug to take the stage, let me introduce her. Now, we're very, very privileged to have Ms. Konrug Silanookit from Thailand, Indian Revenue of Thailand. She's the head of the International Compliance Audit Development Division at the Thai Revenue Department. So she has more than 10 years of experience in tax audits, specializing in transfer pricing, focusing in developing audit standards and strengthening her international tax compliance frameworks. And in terms of education, she also had been educated around the world, including holding a Master's of International Taxation from the University of Melbourne. So without further ado, Ms. Konrug, please take the stage. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, thank you, Tax Academy and Dennis, to making this amazing event. Today, I will share Thailand experience in using data-driven approach to improve tax certainty and modernize tax administration. This presentation will focus on our 3 recent practical initiatives and data-driven, which is nudge letter, transfer pricing case selection, and a fast-track tax refund. So the overall is how data can help tax administration move from a purely enforcement-based approach to a more balanced, built on prevention, early resolution, and trust. To begin, I would like to briefly introduce a context behind our transformation journey. Like many tax administration, we have faced increasing pressure on globalization, digitalization, and cross-border transactions have become more complex. Multinational enterprise structures are more sophisticated, and taxpayers expect faster and more transparent services. As a developing country, we also face a practical constraint in terms of the resource, manpower, and data quality. Therefore, our challenge is not just simply audit as much as we can, but we have to use our limited resource more intelligently and give as much tax certainty as possible to our taxpayer. This has pushed TRD to adopt a more data-driven AI and risk-based approach recently. Today, I have explained how we just using data not only for detect risks, but also how to encourage voluntary compliance and improve taxpayer experience. So first of all, this is a summary of major challenges that we encounter with. So, of course, we have encountered with the complex cross-border transaction, like transfer. And also we have a big challenge with the significant data asymmetry that a tax authority have less data compared to the taxpayer, especially for a cross-border transaction. And also the length audit time. When we do a full audit, it takes a year. And when we come dispute, it even longer that we have to take that cycle. And the last one is the resource-intensive audit, especially for transfer pricing. We have very limited specialist resource. So this is a 4 challenge that we encounter with. So today I'll explain how we're using data not only to detect, but how to encourage this of the system. So this is our Thailand strategic shift. So our approach to summarize in these 3 contexts, one is prevention, the other one is detection, and finally is resolve early. So what we do under prevention, we focus on identifying high-risk taxpayers through data analytics and third-party information like AUI data or tax return and financial statement to set a risk profile for taxpayer. And we target early for those who have a newly established company or high-risk taxpayer by a nudge letter. And then under detection, we also apply a big data technique and machine learning to find anomaly detection to identify unusual taxpayer and send them to the audit team. And finally, under the early resolution, we try to introduce our practical tool like fast-track tax refund to encourage and provide quicker certainty to the compliant taxpayer. The important point here is that modernizing is not only about stronger enforcement, but it is also about creating a smarter, compliant environment. We aim to intervene early before problem escalate to a larger dispute. This is our first project that recently launched as a nudge letter. So nudge letter is a data trigger notification sent to taxpayers who are in our system identify potential inconsistency and filing the gap and risk indicator. The purpose is not to immediate enforcement, but to encourage taxpayer to review and voluntarily correct the filing before formal audit becomes necessary. So we shooting through the 2 groups. One is a newly established company, and the group 2 is a high-risk company. And as you can see, the approach is when we pull the data and do the analytic, and we're shooting to newly established company, we found that over 62% respond tax return within time for the first year of their newly establishment. And for the second group is a high-risk company that have the historical data of non-compliant on filing obligation. We found that 26% respond after they get the notification. So after not just only the number, but the tax payment amount result is very positive. Over 22 million US dollar have filing voluntary by the newly establishment company, and over $10 million filing right after they get the notification without a formal audit. So this is the result. And the key success of this story is about the content in the letter that we bring from data that we have and let the taxpayer know, hey, we have a data that you have revenue and don't forget to filing. So this is help have a high impact for a tax authority that positive like self-compliant, and also the fewer formal audits happen and the faster resolution cycle. So this is a streamline from our analysis and correction. So next is a transfer pricing case selection. So as everyone knows, transfer pricing is one of the most resource-intensive area for tax administration, especially for developing country. Therefore, effective case selection is critical. Our approach relies heavily on data integration, AI, and machine learning. We combine multiple sources of information like tax return, financial statement, AUI data, and third-party information. Using all data together allow us to identify pattern of inconsistent or more effective than rely on a single source alone. So we apply several risk indicators like profit level or high volume related party transaction or reporting continuous loss company. We also build a broader taxpayer risk profile using historical data and behavior and industry comparison. As a result, we achieve a more target transparency case selection and reduce unnecessary audit for a lower risk business. This is particularly important because it's improved both administrative efficiency and taxpayer certainty. When a low-risk taxpayer face fewer unnecessary audit, the trust in the system improves. And the final project that I want to share with everyone today is fast-track tax refund. So traditionally, tax refund can create tension between tax administration and taxpayer because authority want to prevent fraud, while business want a faster refund and better cash flow certainty. Thailand attempts to balance this objective through risk-based refund processing. Using data analytics to identify low-risk taxpayer and the strong compliant historical data and reliable and data pattern, these taxpayers can receive accelerated refund through fast-track procedure. Meanwhile, high-risk cases continue to undergo detailed audit review. So this is the result that we found. We start this process in 2024. As you can see, in 2022, only 50% have approval rate within a year, and is gradually increased to 56% in 2023. But once we use the automation AI and machine learning in 2024, we can approve rate by 88%, over 80%. And in terms of the tax refund amount, the amount that we approval rate through the system from 56% in 2022, we can increase to 93% in 2024 for the large tax office. So this number is happened by the data-driven system. So quite pleasure for the taxpayer who have complied in our system, and it reduced a lot of work from a tax administration. So they have a better tax experience, incentive for compliance, and reduce administrative burden. So we separate into a group. The low-risk taxpayer get a fast-track refund, and the high-risk taxpayer go to audit. So data enable both enforcement and trust. The impact and the strategic takeaway. So to conclude, I would like to highlight 3 key takeaways from Thailand experience. First, data-driven early intervention help deliver faster tax certainty. By identifying risks earlier and resolving issues earlier, we can reduce length, audit, and dispute cycle. Second, risk-based approach optimize limited resource. Instead of applying the same level of scrutiny to all taxpayers, we focus on attending a high-risk case where intervention is most necessary. Third, and perhaps the most importantly, data can use not only for enforcement, but also for building trust. Fast-track refund and proactive compliance measures show compliant taxpayers that good behavior is recognized and rewarded. Overall, Thailand experience demonstrates that modernizing is not simply about adopting technology, but it is about redesigning a relationship between tax administration and the taxpayers. Our strategic direction can therefore be summarized in our final message on this slide. From enforcement to trust and delivering tax certainty through data. Thank you very much. I look forward for discussion and question.
Wow, thank you, Ms. Konrug.
And I made within 12 minutes.
Well within the time, and from the bottom of my heart, I found that presentation very fascinating because it talks about business transformation and how the esteemed colleagues from Thailand, they are changing the way they do the business of tax administration, which I will have questions for you later, Ms. Konrug, don't worry, they will come up. But for now, if I invite our next speaker to get ready on stage, really privileged to introduce to you Mr. Patrick O'Doherty. Patrick is the Chief Digital Officer from the Inland Revenue New Zealand. And he returned to the Inland Revenue in January 2025 after spending the previous year and a half as the Health New Zealand's Chief Transformation Officer. And prior to that, he was with the IRD in New Zealand for over 9 years, where he was doing also business transformation. So from Patrick, we will definitely hear the insights as what they're doing right now, because he leads a large and diverse team covering technology design, business architecture, and focus on helping the New Zealand public sector take full advantage of all the data and digital assets available across the system. So Patrick, over to you, please.
Thank you, Dennis, and thanks again to the Tax Academy of Singapore for the opportunity to come and talk to you today. It's a real privilege to be able to share a little bit about the New Zealand journey. So thank you, Dennis, and also thanks, Eunice, for organising such a fantastic event. Before I dive into the specific topics around AI, I want to talk a little bit about the transformation journey that Inland Revenue New Zealand has been on for the last 10 or 12 years. We set out in about 2012 to change the New Zealand tax system from being one that was very much focused on compliance to one that was focused around customer experience. So what we recognised was that the hard end of tax compliance, while effective, could be a lot more effective if we actually focused on a good customer experience. What we found over the intervening years is where we focus on developing a good experience with our taxpayers and actually treating them like customers as opposed to taxpayers has actually had an ancillary impact on improving compliance overall. So the whole point is that, yes, penalties, interest, punitive regimes, etc., from when people get into trouble is important. Actually treating people with respect and trying to help them get through difficult situations has actually had a very positive impact on compliance. So we're quite comfortable that the move towards being more of a customer-centric agency is actually having a really good impact from a compliance perspective. What that transformation has given us is a really good, solid foundation in terms of data and information. So we've now got really good quality data and information across all of our taxpayer base, across both individuals and businesses, to the point where we have, similar to what work has been done here in Singapore and what's been done in Thailand around the individual taxpayers, we now automatically assess and issue assessments for about 80% of all our individual taxpayers. So that means about 4 million individual New Zealanders have effectively got a zero-touch tax system because we collect the information from employers. So all employment information is sent automatically to Inland Revenue within about 48 hours of every individual payroll. All other investment income information from banks, investment houses, etc., we collect on a monthly basis. What that's now given us is the ability to actually move the concept of a tax year for those individuals to being no longer relevant. So while we still have the concept of a square up at the end of the year, effectively we have the potential to move to an ongoing or a rolling or a monthly square up for these individuals, which gives us much more ability to then use that up-to-date income information for other services, such as in the social services. What that's also then helped us in the age of AI is to realize that AI is actually less about technology. Even though we always talk about technology, it's actually less about technology and more about having good underpinning data and information, but also building up the capability of our people. So to that end, in a world where we don't know what's coming next, so we started talking about a year ago about how do we build an AI strategy, and the reality is we don't even know what's going to happen next week, let alone what the world of AI is going to look like in 2 or 3 or 5 years' time. So that's why we came up with what we call our digital ambition. So this is around how do we prepare Inland Revenue New Zealand for a world that we just cannot yet define, and we probably won't be able to define until it's actually here. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but effectively we came up with 7 different ambition statements. I'm going to mention a few of these, I'm not going to go through all of them. The first one is we want to be a trusted source of content. So we recognize our customers are already using AI in various forms, whether that's through a large language model to get some advice or actually using agents that they have built and developed themselves to interact directly with us. So we did some research about 3 months ago where we found that 60% of, the source of content for across the vast majority of AI models being used in New Zealand, the source of advice it was getting for 60% of those responses, remember these are questions related to New Zealand tax law, was Reddit. So we don't think that Reddit is a good source of knowledge from a New Zealand tax perspective. So one of the real focus for us is how do we make our content a trusted source for generally available AI models, recognizing customers are going to be using AI to interact with us increasingly. We also talk about the concept of universal data access with consent. So the concept here is that every single entity in New Zealand has access to an individual or a business's data in order to deliver them a good service. However, the key obviously is that that is with the consent of the individual or that particular business. And we are already doing a lot of work with this, not just across government agencies, but across commercial entities as well, in areas like financial institutions. The third one is around exceptional service experience. So again, back to the trust example, we believe AI and digital innovation more broadly has the ability to enhance the experience that we give our customers, which in turn will then raise the trust they have in us as an agency, which in turn will then raise compliance levels. When we talk about AI, we don't just want to talk about AI as a piece of technology and something that we want to, yes, we want to experiment with it, but our focus on everything we do with AI and digital more broadly is on value. So when we take a step back and we look at inland revenue as an organization, and if we put a commercial lens on that, we generate value by dealing with customer information and by dealing with what we call sensitive revenue information. So like most revenue authorities, we've got information on pretty much every single individual and every single business in the country. And we have a lot of very sensitive revenue and income information for those entities. That's the value. Those are two of the most valuable assets we've got in the organization. So we have to get comfortable with using AI on those two really important and valuable data assets. That makes a lot of people really, really nervous, particularly our tax lawyers, our privacy lawyers, etc. It makes us really, really nervous. However, in order to get value out of AI, that's where we have to be focusing. It's not going to be good enough going forward to enhance back office processes, back-end processes, etc. We see the real value is actually in extracting value out of the valuable data assets that we've actually got. Keeping in mind the ultimate goal is still to provide an exceptional customer experience to our customers, because that's what leads to trust and ultimately leads to better compliance. I want to touch a little bit on, and Rob mentioned this before as well, on the education process that we're working on internally within Inland Revenue, because one of the key foundational pillars that we found, as I said, we don't know, and as a Chief Digital Officer, I have no way of predicting what the future technology landscape is going to look like. We can make some guesses, but we can't say with any certainty. What we do know is we need to get our workforce ready. So one of the things we've really focused on is building the confidence and capability level of our people. So we've developed a range of internal training programs which is focused on actually, as I said, primarily building the confidence of our people. One of the interesting things that we found in New Zealand is when we look at global research, New Zealand ranks generally in the top 3 or 4 globally in terms of individual use of AI per capita. However, conversely, when we then look at the confidence businesses have in using AI, we generally rank towards the bottom of those lists. So we've got this dichotomy where individuals are using AI a lot in their own personal world, but businesses and organizations are not yet comfortable with using it in a business context. So we have to help to change that. As I said, we feel we've got a really good foundation, we've got really good data, really good technology, so we don't have that constraint in terms of taking advantage of AI. However, we do need to get our people confident and comfortable. We then looked at what we used to term digital literacy, and we feel that that's not what we need going forward. So the term that we now use is digital dexterity. So digital dexterity, if I can explain in simple terms, digital literacy is I will give somebody a technology tool, I will train them how to use it, and they will learn how to use that particular tool. Digital dexterity is where we're not going to train you on a specific tool, but we're going to help and support you to figure out what tools, what AI models, what solutions do you need to do your job or do your role better? And the conversation we're having with our staff is saying, look, if you are worried about AI taking your job, then it probably will. However, if you are asking questions in terms of how your role or your function is going to change through the use of AI, and you're curious as to what tools you're going to be able to use to do that, then you're probably going to be okay. So it's about empowering our people and making it all about the individual. You need to take ownership of your own journey in terms of AI. Now, we're just going to talk about a couple of examples of where we're using AI specifically within the inland revenue context. So first one, M365 Copilot. We've rolled out Copilot across the whole organisation. We're the first government organisation in New Zealand to do that across the whole organisation, and we're one of the first kind of commercial organisations in the country to kind of go out across the whole country. One of the things which was a really tough conversation, but one of the things we've recognised, and this is being borne out by the work that we're seeing, is we're not necessarily going to get a tangible benefit return from rolling out Copilot. So we're investing money in this. We are already identifying time savings and efficiencies and benefits in that regard, but we're not expecting we're going to be able to turn that into tangible dollar savings, because what we're seeing is even the really powerful and successful users are saving time in terms of what they're doing, but that doesn't equate into actually real dollar values. However, the real benefit is we are seeing an increasing level of confidence and capability amongst our people in using those tools. And we think while we can quantify that, it's really difficult to realize it, but we think it's actually worthwhile doing. In terms of our contact center, and again, this is similar to I think what's happening in IRAS, at the moment our focus is on supporting our contact center staff in terms of stuff like call summarization, and actually assisting our contact center frontline facing people respond to customer queries. We haven't yet got to the point of having agents dealing directly with customers, but we absolutely see a pathway of being able to do that in the next 12, 18 or 24 months. Because we are already seeing our customers using AI agents to call us. So we've seen an increase in the last probably 6 months of agents both using our online services to using agents to act on behalf of customers to use our online services, and also using AI agents to actually call and interact with us via the voice channel as well. Data analytics, so Snowflake and Cortex AI. Main thing we're doing with that is around audits, and particularly natural language interfaces to our audit information, so helping our auditors actually identify audit cases more efficiently. Decision support, so this is within our core tax system, primarily focused on our debt customers. So again, this is around identifying where customers are in debt, how, based on deep analytics, what's the best channel to actually get them to repay their debt. So as an example, in the last 9 months, we've successfully recorded about $180 million of debt by using targeted interventions. Stuff like bank deductions, some nudge letters, and also setting up automatic payment plans. In addition, we've also found about an additional $200 million from customers where we recognized earlier that we just needed to give them some time and some support to actually pay their debt off in time. And in network analysis, again, similar to what we're doing in IRAS, primarily focused in the audit and audit, fraud, and organised crime and financial crime space, looking at advanced network analysis of entities and relationships. A couple of last points, because I didn't do as well as our colleague from Thailand in terms of staying to time, so apologies. One of the things I did want to touch on here, which is becoming quite relevant, is how do we treat AI as a customer? And specifically, as I said, we are seeing customers using AI to act on behalf of customers, both individuals and businesses. But at the moment, that's working on the basis of they are impersonating that individual customer. In the future, we see a world where individuals will have their own AI agent, which will be acting on behalf of that individual to interact with inland revenue. we need to find a mechanism to recognize that a particular AI agent has got a delegated authority or some authority from an individual or from a business to act on their behalf. Similar akin to a tax agent authority at the moment, but obviously it's going to be more on an AI agent perspective. We're also seeing a world where, particularly in the startup space, where organizations are actually replacing employees completely with agents. So it's probably not that far of a leap to then think of, well, actually, when we start getting into complex business structures, is there an entity that is actually fully and solely and wholly made up of AI agents, and there's no longer individuals in charge of that particular entity? How do we deal with that from a tax compliance perspective? The other piece, which is more of a thought to consider going forward, we've been doing a lot of work, and if you haven't read it and you want to get a little bit scared about the future, but also a bit optimistic about what the answers are, there was a Citrinio report, which Citrinio, a research agency, did a report about 6 or 9 months ago about the future revenue and tax system. It was a bit of a retrospective, come from 2028, looking backwards. But the main premise of it was, if AI is as disruptive as people are predicting around work, and there's going to be mass, if not mass unemployment, but mass shifts of employment away from current traditional PAYE, kind of standard 40-hour-a-week employment model, what does that mean for the revenue base for countries? And that is something we're looking at right now around, as a country that is, 52% of our revenue comes from PAYE or standard employment-based income. How are we going to respond and prepare for that in the future? So, in conclusion, a couple of takeaways from me is, one, when you think about AI, or certainly when we think about AI, we're thinking about the technology, but we are more thinking about the data and information that underpins that AI, and also getting our people as ready as possible for that. Secondly, we are already seeing customers using AI to interact with us, and that we think is just going to increase at pace. So how do we create a world where we can actually respond and deal with agents who are acting on behalf of humans or on behalf of businesses? And thirdly, probably the most critical part of the role that we play in the future is, how do we become an increasingly trusted source of content for the increasing use of AI and AI agents across the broader economy? So, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So many thought-provoking questions. We all need to work together on the answers. And Jenny, as you take your position, I'll come back to your AI as a customer. It's a very sharp concept. We need to wrap our minds around that. But before that, let's move on with our final speaker for this panel, Ms. Jenny Wong. Now, she brings with her a different perspective. With over 25 years of experience in Big Four accounting firms, Ms. Jenny Wong is currently CPA Australia's tax lead in policy and advocacy. CPA Australia is one of the largest professional accounting bodies in the world. And some people ask me why I keep talking to them. It's because their president is also a tax professor. So there seems to be a tax element in CPA Australia, isn't it, Jenny? Yes. So without further ado, I'll let Jenny present to us her views from the practitioner and from a professional body's views of all about tax and how tax professionals view and respond to AI developments. Jenny, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. And firstly, thank you very much, Dennis and the Tax Academy, for the opportunity of being here. And CPA Australia is pleased to be a sponsor of this event as well. I want to start with a simple observation. Tax administration, the system by which governments collect revenue, enforce compliance, and interact with taxpayers, is one of the oldest and most rule-bound functions in any economy. It moves slowly, deliberately, and for good reason. The stakes are high, the law is complex, and the consequences of getting it wrong fall on real people and real businesses. And yet, in the last 3 to 5 years, AI has moved into a space faster than any business or regulatory function. Today, I want to do 3 things. I want to share how some tax professionals is actually experiencing AI in tax right now. There is opportunity and there is friction. And I want to talk about what this means in practice. Some would say tax authorities, and we've heard it from Patrick and Thailand Inland Revenue Authority in Singapore, that tax authorities are ahead of the profession on AI adoption, and that gap matters. The ATO in Australia has been using machine learning and data analytics for compliance risk profiling for several years now. They've got something like over 14 or 15 AI models deployed in this space between the period of July 23 to May 24. And they are matching data across third-party sources, bank data, property transactions, share registries, and employer reporting at a scale and speed that was simply not possible 5 years ago. When a return is lodged, it is being assessed against an enormous volume of data in near real time. Discrepancies that would previously have taken an audit to surface are being flagged much earlier. The ATO has developed AI models to prompt individuals real-time completing tax returns online to check amounts entered that don't match what is expected compared to the taxpayers' peer groups or prior year figures. Take work-related expenses, for example, if they compare individual tax returns against industry benchmarks flagging claims that look unusually high. The ATO is also using AI for identity theft and detection and fraud prevention. Some individuals who do not use tax advisors may be unaware of the ATO's data matching capabilities and so make work-related claims, for instance, that might not be fully compliant, representing an opportunity for tax advisors to emphasise that professional advice is now not just useful but essential. The real-time nudge also avoids unnecessary escalation. It is a real-time process that supports compliance while maintaining citizen dignity throughout. A taxpayer that chooses to press on does so with the acceptance of the risk and the knowledge that they are outside the usual parameters. For the ATO as a regulator, they can deal with many more exceptions earlier and with far less costs. Despite all of this, the ATO has publicly announced AI cannot play the role of a regulatory decision maker, particularly a decision that adversely affects the rights of human. So what does this mean in practice for practitioners? Well, a couple of things. Firstly, the tolerance for errors is lower. AI systems don't get tired, they don't miss patterns, they don't forget. An inconsistency that a human auditor might have overlooked is exactly the kind of pattern an algorithm is trained to catch. Secondly, the nature of audit triggers is changing. We're moving away from random audits and towards highly targeted, data-driven selection. Your clients who get selected are increasingly being selected because the data says something doesn't add up, not because it's their turn. And thirdly, the volume and granularity of data that tax authorities expect is increasing. Real-time reporting, digital invoicing mandates, single-touch payroll in Australia and payday super, these are all part of a broader shift towards continuous data flows rather than annual point-in-time reporting. AI is what makes the volume of data processable. So how is the profession responding? The firms that are responding well are doing three things. Firstly, they are investing in their own data quality. If tax authorities are matching your client's data against third-party sources, the single best thing you can do is make sure your client's records are clean, consistent, and complete before anything is lodged. AI on the authority side punishes poor data hygiene more than any previous compliance model. Firms that are ahead of this are building data review into their standard workflows, not as an add-on, but as a foundation. Secondly, they're using AI tools on their own side to match what the authorities can see. There are now very capable tools that allow practitioners to run their own data matching and anomaly detection before lodgement. The principle is simple: find a discrepancy before the ATO does. Understand it, explain it, and document it. That's not about hiding anything, it's about being prepared. And thirdly, they are upskilling. Tax professionals who are thriving are the ones who understand not just the law, but the data. They can read a risk profile, they can understand what triggers automate a review, and they can have an intelligent conversation with a client about why something might attract attention. What the profession is struggling with is the pace of change relative to our capacity to absorb it. The regulatory environment is moving fast. AI tools are evolving fast, and many practitioners, particularly small to medium-sized firms, are stretched. They are trying to keep up with technical law changes, digital reporting requirements, and now AI literacy simultaneously. That is a real pressure, and it deserves acknowledgement. Some of the questions I often hear from our members include, can I trust AI-generated tax advice? And this is an accountability question. And the honest answer is, well, you can trust AI as a research and drafting tool, but the professional judgment and the sign-off must remain with the qualified practitioner. The ATO holds lodging agent, the human professional, responsible. AI doesn't have a tax agent registration, at least not yet. We have seen Australia's professional body that governs tax agents put out guidance for tax agents that when using AI, you must use professional judgment, verify the AI outputs, and be accountable when using AI tools. Second question is, what happens when AI is wrong? Well, it will be wrong. That's not a criticism. It's the reality of technology at this stage. AI tools in tax are very good in pattern recognition, research synthesis, and first draft production. They are less reliable on novel questions, complex cross-border matters, or situations where facts are genuinely unusual. Knowing where AI is strong and where it needs the most careful human review is a core professional skill now. And AI has a capacity to scale mistakes if left unchecked. Even a very high apparent success rate of an AI model can mask serious consequences. A system that is 99% accurate is by definition 100% failure for the 1% who are affected. For those individuals, impact can be significant and sometimes catastrophic. Responsible use of AI requires disciplined thinking about where the errors might occur and how that is managed for both the ATO and tax professionals. This means putting the right cultural and procedural safeguards around AI use, clear accountability, human involvement in adverse decision-making, and fostering a willingness to question outputs rather than defer to them. And the third question is, will AI reduce the demand for tax professionals? Well, this goes to the very existence of tax professionals. And my honest view is that it will reduce the demand for certain type of work, high volume, low complexity compliance processing, but it will increase demand for professionals who can do what AI cannot: exercise judgment, manage relationships, navigate ambiguity, and give advice that accounts for clients' full circumstances. That's where the value add is for tax agents. The profession is not shrinking, it is bifurcating. And which side of that line you end up on is to a significant degree a choice. So let me draw this together with some practical implications. For compliance work, the baseline expectation is rising. Tax authorities with AI can see more faster. Your value as a practitioner is not in lodging the return, it's ensuring the return is defensible, well documented, and reflective of your client's actual position that requires more engagement with the client, not less. For advisory, this is where the opportunity is significant. Clients facing a more sophisticated, data-driven tax authority need strategic advice more than ever. They need someone who can help them understand the risk profile, structure their affairs properly, and respond effectively when the authority does make contact. That is a high-value, relationship-dependent work that AI does not displace. And thirdly, for practice management, the firms that will be well-positioned in 5 years are the ones investing now. Not necessarily in expensive technology, but in building the habits and the literacy to use AI tools well. That means training, that means updating workflows, that means honest conversations within your firm about where you are on this journey. And ethical obligations are also being tested. Accountants, including tax agents, must find the balance between applying professional skepticism and staying open-minded about the benefits of this emerging technology. The results produced by AI tools should be tested against real-world judgment. So I'll close with this. AI is reshaping the tax profession on two fronts simultaneously. The ATO is using it to tighten compliance and detect anomalies, while practitioners are using it to automate routine work. The professionals who thrive will be those who combine the AI literacy with strong ethical judgment, client advisory skills, and an understanding of where their technology falls short. I think the message is straightforward. Test and adopt, look at the market, learn from others across the profession. You don't need to have this figured out, but you do need to keep moving. The tax professionals who will thrive in this environment are the ones who embrace AI as a tool that extends their capability, not a threat to their expertise. Your judgment, your ethics, your client relationships, those are your differentiators. Protect them, develop them, and use every good tool available to you to do your job at the highest possible level. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. Please have a seat. Well, we're running a bit short of time, but as with all panel, I need to ask some questions. So I promised Robin I'll spare him. I'll jump straight to our international guests. I'll start first with Ms. Konrug from Thailand. If you do not mind my rather sharp questions, you were very, very kind to share how the Thailand IRD is now using nudge letters. And you mentioned there was some data in those nudge letters that you shared, which then made them come back and, perhaps tell you information. Could you share with the audience at large, a bit more information about what exactly goes into those nudge? How do you make the nudge letters so successful?
I think the key successful of the nudge letter in Thailand is about the data and the content in the letter that we send to a taxpayer. So if we can send a specific content, like I know that you have revenue from this organization.
Wow.
So the taxpayer will the Thai revenue department know exactly what I have done. So we send the exact data to the taxpayer. So that's why they have respond more than before. And also for the newly established company, we don't have that kind of data that's specific data like a non-compliant group, but sending hey, there's a notification, don't forget to submit the tax return within time. So for the first year of the operation, so that has helped a lot.
Thank you, that's fascinating. So if anybody wants to know more information, please approach Ms. Konrug. Second, pardon my curiosity, you are obviously a transfer pricing expert, and you're also in charge of the team that looks after transfer pricing. Beyond what you have shared with us, can you, barring any more that you cannot share? If you can't share, just say you can't share. What do you look for when your team looks across all the various entities in terms of the transfer pricing? What does your team look for in terms of situations that you would want to raise queries or ask questions about?
What we're looking for, the high risks.
Yes.
Taxpayer is about abnormally transaction that we found from our data, and also from the regional as well. So we try to do transfer pricing across the country, and a different regional have a different risks. I cannot share what kind of risk, but
of course.
Yes, that kind of data showed us from machine learning. So they'll send out some of the case to those locations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So you can see that our esteemed Thai colleagues are now very data-driven, and please feel free to approach them to understand better, and we can promote more trust. I love your point about data promoting not enforcement but also trust. If I may now turn to Patrick, as I mentioned earlier during lunch, what caught me was your concept of AI as a customer. And maybe I pose my question more in a form of a case study. Right? I use ChatGPT, people use Claude, Perplexity. How do you create your knowledge assets such that when I ask my ChatGPT to go read your website and all that, what do you look for? How do you design it such that the AI would help me as a taxpayer in New Zealand, for example, get even better answers? How do we think about it?
Yeah, so we've got a big program at the moment called Strategic Approach to Content, which is all about how do we create our content, our binding rulings, our guidance, etc., so that it can get consumed by those agents. So if you're using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever the case is, that we make sure, first and foremost, our content is able to be consumed by those, because one of the challenges we've got at the moment is a lot of our content isn't, because it was designed to be consumed by humans. What we're recognizing is that it's already happening, but certainly in the next 3 to 5 years, most of our content won't be getting consumed by humans. It'll be getting consumed by AI agents or various other forms, whatever the next evolution is. So that's first and foremost, which is actually how do we design our content so it can get consumed by those agents? And then secondly, once we understand what the most relevant content is, how do we then make sure that that is actually the stuff that we focus on? So we're doing a kind of a two-pronged approach, which is one, getting our content kind of technically ready, and then secondly, our internal processes around making sure that the way we do those binding rulings and guidances and get those published is as efficient and streamlined as possible.
Thank you. Then with that, I will turn to Jenny. I think what Patrick has talked talked about really ties in with your point that the profession is bifurcating. So assuming he gets it right, and Singapore will learn from you, and Thailand will learn from you, and all of us have this wonderful AI content that is generated there, where the AI agent is such an expert and become a good tax advisor. What does the future hold then for the tax profession, Jenny? And especially from the training and development angle, as a professional body, where do you see the profession going, and what can an organization like CP Australia do?
I think reskilling is going to be a big part of the profession. Obviously, if you've got better data that's fed into poorly skilled teams, that produces the wrong results faster. I think reskilling will only work if the leadership models it as well. So if the partners aren't engaging with these tools themselves, and then no training program will stick. So I think it's not just about sending your staff to a course. I think leadership's very important as well. I think also accountability is going to be a big issue as well, knowing...
Yes. Yes. I know you had some comments on that accountability section, so maybe I'll just continue with Jenny. Yeah. How do you see that playing out in the profession then?
Yeah, so I think the red line, red line between AI support and AI decision making is accountability. Whether the human can genuinely own the outcome. And I think there's a danger zone where, the AI output looks right and then people just switch off. So the test really is, are you comfortable in defending, whatever the output is to the ATO with no reference to AI at all? And if the answer is, well, I sort of need to check what the model did, you haven't really reviewed, the output, you've actually just endorsed it. And I think there's a real danger in that.
Right, thank you. So with that, we've come to the end of our time. I want to keep everybody on a tight schedule, but you can see for such a conference, there's so much more we can talk about, and really invite all of you to get to know our panelists, get their name cards, and continue conversations even after the event.